How is it going, everyone? It's Kane Limit here, and today we are going to be talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars, the movie, for May the 4th be with you. Now, I was going to actually talk about The Acolyte. That was going to be like my first Star Wars series review, but after watching it, I realized I probably shouldn't celebrate with that because, well, there's a lot of reasons I shouldn't use The Acolyte to celebrate. That wasn't great to watch, but this was fun to watch again. I hadn't seen this in a long time. I remember going to the drive-in and watching this back in 2008, and actually watching it again was really, really fun. It's hard to believe that this movie is it's getting to be 20 years old. It's 17 years old at this point, which is just crazy to even think about. But I love this movie. I loved it when it came out. Of course, I was a kid when it came out, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was great when it came out. But even as an adult, I still think it's actually a really fun movie and a great introduction into the Clone Wars series in general. The whole plot and the whole storyline of the Star Wars The Clone Wars, the movie, is all about Anakin Skywalker finally getting a Padawan. And I always found it to be a little bit odd, considering Anakin wasn't a Jedi Master. But I guess there was never really anything in the movies to say that a Jedi Knight couldn't have a Padawan either. It's kind of, you just assume a Jedi Knight wouldn't have a Padawan and be a Jedi Master that would. But this is all about Anakin Skywalker getting a Padawan named Ahsoka, who eventually becomes one of the greatest characters to ever be added into Star Wars. I mean, Ahsoka has her own TV series now. She was great in the Clone Wars. She showed up in Rebels. She's been in so many different things, and I think that it may be one of the best additions to Star Wars to ever happen. And this is when you first meet her, and she starts off as kind of a snippy character, which is why she gets the nickname Snips, but she starts off as kind of a snippy, back-talking, kind of sassy character towards Anakin, and it really plays well with Anakin, because Anakin is... even though Anakin is kind of, playful when it comes to Obi-Wan, and he's playful in general sometimes, like later on once Ahsoka kind of... in the series, once Ahsoka and Anakin start getting to, know each other a while, they start being friends for longer, he's definitely more playful with her as well. But at first, Anakin's still really high-strung in this series, so seeing this kind of like snippy Padawan and Anakin being high-strung and aggravated at the idea of having a Padawan and trying to figure out how to train a Padawan, it's actually an interesting, conflict there, and I actually really enjoyed that. The story, it starts off on just them defending a planet, and then it eventually goes into space because the Republic Senate is basically making a deal with the Hutts because they need the Hutts' travel lanes to be able to, help them in the war. So what they're doing is basically they need to help the Hutts so they can basically get favors from them. So Jabba the Hutt's son actually got kidnapped, and now the Jedi are off to try and go save Jabba the Hutt's son and bring him back to them. That way they can finally have some basically outer rim routes that they can travel on. So that's basically the whole story of this, and it's basically all about Anakin and Ahsoka and Captain Rex, which is actually the first time you meet Captain Rex too, I believe, other than on Endor, but that's a later thing. But you get to see all these characters come together and then go and try to basically find Jabba's son that's been captured by the CIS, and the CIS have a whole scheme planned where they're going to basically, they kidnapped him, and then they're going to frame the Jedi for kidnapping him instead by capturing Anakin saying stupid stuff on recording, and they show that to the Hutts, and it was a whole thing where they tried to basically get the Jedi in trouble with the Hutts. And the CIS was the whole one who orchestrated this whole, Jabba's son getting kidnapped idea. However, even though they orchestrated it and they were willing to kill Jabba's son, they were doing this to get obviously the outer rim routes as well. They were trying to get the favor for those outer rim routes. So they're trying to do whatever they can to frame the Jedi as bad guys, even though they're the ones who set up this entire scheme to begin with. And obviously it falls through. But you do get to see some really cool characters in this. You get Asajj Ventress in this one. You get a cool fight scene between Asajj Ventress and Obi-Wan Kenobi. You get a cool fight scene between Count Dooku and Anakin Skywalker, which is really good. You get actually a pretty decent fight scene with even Ahsoka and the Magna Guards. I think that one's actually really cool too. So there's actually some good fight scenes in this. There's some cool things that you see that you don't really see in any of the other Star Wars series either. Like, one thing that you see in this is you see them take some of the vehicles up walls, which was really cool. I actually really enjoyed that when you start seeing them take like the clone walkers up a wall and stuff like that, and then they have spider droids also on the wall that are like climbing down a cliff face, just shooting, and there's like this huge war going on the side of this cliff face, and it's just a really cool scene. I really like that one a lot. And overall, this movie actually still holds up really well in terms of how it looks. It doesn't look bad at all. It still looks really good. I enjoy the way that it looks and everything. All the scenery is really good. And the best thing about it is that it feels like Star Wars. They did a good job just making sure everything feels like Star Wars. All the characters feel true to who they are in the movies. You know, I feel like Anakin... This is actually where you get a little bit more charisma from Anakin too, because you just get to see this relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin a bit more, and you kind of get to see the relationship between them really build, and it helps so much for episode 2 and 3 and, you know, everything that happens in between, because you do really just get to see this camaraderie that Obi-Wan and Anakin have, and it's great to see. I really love it. And it honestly, it makes episode 3 hit harder a little bit too, because you kind of see this playful Anakin and episode 2 a little bit, you know, you kind of... And then when you get to the third movie, he's lighthearted, but you can tell that there's still stuff weighing on him at the beginning. It's like he's trying to joke around, but you can still almost feel like there's something weighing on him. And you gotta remember that, like, at this point, Ahsoka has left the Jedi Order, you know... He's already having problems because he's trying to keep his relationship with Padme hidden. There's so much stuff that has happened in between these that the Clone Wars fills in, that it really actually adds just more to episodes 3 and episode 2. This is one of those movies and one of those series in general that they just add so much more to the movies. And that's what you want from any spin-off movie or anything like that. You want it to add to the other ones. You don't want it to hurt the other movies. You know, you want it to build upon what's already been built. You want it to give a bigger impact. And if you can do that, then you've made something successful. And I would say that this was pretty successful. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. And a lot of people love the Clone Wars today. And this is where it all started. And if you have not seen the Clone Wars movie, you should check it out. Honestly, yeah, it was made with kids in mind, but it's actually a really fun movie. And the actual cartoon series gets really, really dark later on. There's some really dark scenes that I was kind of surprised to see in a kid's show when I was growing up. So definitely go check it out. Star Wars Clone Wars is a fun movie. Some people I know get aggravated at the way that Ahsoka and Anakin used to talk to each other. People got mad that Ahsoka used to call Anakin Sky Guy. I never really understood why people got so mad about that, but man, the people, it was like, I think it was the original trilogy folks, like, they got furious about that, but I don't really understand why. I thought it made sense for the characters, you know, they're kind of playful banter with each other, and again, her name is Snips, she's snippy, she's gonna say smart alecky things, and Anakin makes it clear he doesn't like it from the get-go, so I think they did a good job with all the characters and the character interactions, and of course, voice acting is phenomenal as well, and this just started a fantastic series, so go check out Star Wars The Clone Wars, and may the 4th be with you. I will talk to you guys in the next one. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.